This is your dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. Starting from humble beginnings, Nick has been beating the markets for over 2 decades. He shares with you his take on the profitable trades that will have you moving towards financial freedom in no time at all. To see an in-depth review of his track record and much more, go to inthemoneystocks.com. Welcome. This is your daily dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's 5/12/21, show number 265. Well, like night follows day, Nick. Markets are down today, supposedly on increased CPI. I heard the rate was as high as 4.2%. It printed, but that's when you take into account things like food and energy, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. But the headline numbers, even though it was very hot, CPI increased by 0.8% in April. Core CPI, which excludes food and energy, that increased by 0.9%. And the Fed heads, the central bankers, as we call them, they call this transitory. So I don't know what they're looking at. Maybe these guys don't go to the grocery store. Maybe they don't fill up their cars with gasoline. I don't know what they look at, but we shall see about that word transitory.
Hey, you know what they say, Nick? Life is transitory, right?
Yeah, life is transitory.
Like,
a lot of transformational vocabulary going on these days.
Yeah, it's like call a rose a rose. It's inflation. And if this was the 70s, they would have called it for what it was. And the financial media, equally as corrupt as the mainstream media, they just gulp down these lines of pure BS. I mean, gullibility, there's no critical analysis in the news or anything, no examination of what happens when you print trillions of dollars and have helicopter money and just throw it out there. Oh, what a surprise. We've got transitory inflation. And what does transitory mean anyway? How long is it transitory for?
That's the $1 million question. I had to go look up on Webster's dictionary. It said a brief duration, temporary, tending to pass away, not persistent.
Yeah, well, that's like transitory death, you know? Hey, you die, but it's transitory until you go to the next incarnation or wherever you go after you die. But it's transitory death, except if you're here on Earth, it seems very permanent, right?
Certainly does. And one thing we've seen, you know, if these guys ever take a look at a graph of the steel price, or go look at maybe a graph of copper, or go look at a graph of corn or wheat, things people use, things people need, things people are buying now are extremely high. I mean, a sheet of plywood now is up, 200% from what it was a year ago. This is incredible that these guys do not address this.
Yeah, well, because to address it, there's only one thing in their arsenal. That would be to raise interest rates. And what do you think would happen then?
Well, it looks like if rates go up, markets go down. And that's their saving grace, or their holy grail is the stock market always going up. These guys do not let anything correct. They do not let markets have any kind of a pullback. And there's so many dislocations and distortions because of that. And, you can look at the Archegos hedge fund blow up just, basically in late March. And that just goes to show you the leverage that is out here just trading dangerously each and every day.
Yeah. How do these guys sleep at night, Nick?
That's a good question.
I mean, knowing that your book could blow up at any moment, not just put you out of a job, but throw the entire bank into insolvency and receivership and a bailout and everything else. And everything's riding on you. And you know that your bosses don't really understand what you're doing. They have very little control over the risk that you actually enter into. And then you have that whale trade just blow up one day. And then everybody becomes Archegos.
Yeah. And it reminds you of back in the late 90s with long-term capital management. It's the same deal. And the funny thing is, we only hear about this Archegos capital, but the reality of it is there's lots of others that are doing the same thing. And, this is going to become problematic once we start hearing about it. When the market loses confidence in the central bankers, which I think it is doing now, that's going to be a real big problem going forward.
Yeah. So that's so interesting. So they're all doing the same thing. Like you said about the cockroaches, when you shine a light and you see one, there's 1,000 hiding, and they're all overstretched, over leveraged, and they're all going to blow up at the same time. And what does the government do then?
Well, the government comes to the taxpayer and says, hey, we need to bail the big banks out again. That seems to be what always happens. So, we're setting the stage up for that to occur again. And even the Archegos, which was just one hedge fund, you had places like Credit Suisse took a huge loss, $5 billion. We don't even know Nomura's loss, and that was massive. We know that Morgan Stanley lost $1 billion, and there were other firms out there too that lost in the billions. So when you think about this, what is really going on here? These central bankers have just allowed so much liquidity, put so much liquidity in the system, and they've allowed so much use of leverage. And this is where the problems come in, and it's happened before, and it'll happen again.
Yeah, and there's nothing new under the sun. We know that's for sure. Well, gold is getting slammed a bit today. Makes you wonder if there's a potential liquidity event occurring that's causing the dumping of these assets. We just had a story in Zero Hedge that, we were off by 3,300 tons as far as how much the total silver in vaults is at the LBMA, and the usual suspects are involved, like JP Morgan and a couple of others, HSBC. The other one, I don't remember. I think it's Standard Bank, ICBC, Standard Bank. I don't even know where they are or anything about them. They took over for somebody else a while ago. But hey, the rounding error, who cares? It's only 3 to 5%. Does it really matter? We just, how many ounces are in a ton of silver? I mean, that's a lot of ounces.
Yeah, that is. And the funny thing is, it's always the same players. These guys are always got their nose right into the whole scenario each and every time. It's the same guys. They get a fine. It's just the cost of doing business, and they move on. But we see that a ton. But I mean, nowadays, the central bankers are printing $120+ billion a month. This has been going on for quite a while. That's gotten the Dow Jones Industrial Average recently up to 35,000. Now the Dow is, underneath 34,000 pretty quickly, lost 1,000 points in a flash. And today it's down 356 points. So, everybody now is starting to get a little bit more concerned that maybe, the central bankers or the Treasury Secretary, which is Janet Yellen, she doesn't, or Jay Powell, the Fed chairman, doesn't have everything under control. And, this is gonna lead to these markets seeing some distribution.
Yeah, it sure looks like it, and they can't really allow that. So what's their solution? Print more money and push the button and shoot it out into the world, and hope that inflates everything else. So gold down a little bit, but nothing. Silver down 1%, gold down less than 1%. No cause for concern.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think gold right now down 0.6% on the futures at around 1825. It's above that 1800 level. It's very psychological. Then you have silver futures today lower by 30 cents, which is a decline of 1%. I recently got out of my IAU call options, made some really good money there. I got out of my GDX, and now I'm waiting on a pullback here, and this is exactly what I want to see, and I'll reload and get back into them shortly.
And we'll start to see a stronger dollar probably at this point, don't you think?
I do think so. I think that I do believe the dollar now, as the markets go down, will start to strengthen, as the Federal Reserve has to reconsider what they're doing going forward. If they need to tighten, that will certainly strengthen the dollar. I have not been bearish the dollar, although the dollar has gone lower. But like I said, in 2021, the dollar should be stronger by the end of the year. And, we're looking at rates also trickling higher as we speak. Bond yields on the 10-year now are up about 6 basis points to 1.683%. You know my story, Kerry. I think yields have a long way to go as far as going up, and that means bond prices are going down.
All right. Well, that's an interesting thing to watch for sure, because, so goes the bond market, right?
Yeah, the bond bubble is over. We had a really terrific run, and yields were down in the gutter for a long time, but they have no place to go but up from here. And the reason why is, who in their right mind is going to lend the government 10 years of their money lend their money for 10 years or 30 years and get paid nothing? So that's really where we are now, that the U.S. debt is rounding out around $30 trillion and growing. You're going to want to get paid something if you have to give them your money.
Yeah, well, it's that or Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, interesting look at the charts, has been making lower highs. And you think we're seeing maybe a flight from Bitcoin to Ethereum and a change in leadership in the crypto space?
Well, I don't follow a chart Ethereum because I just don't have that chart available to me on my platform because it doesn't trade in the futures. But I do see that right now we are seeing lower highs in Bitcoin. And when you get lower highs, that means more distribution to come. And I think that is underway ultimately. So I would be careful all the cryptos, even Ethereum, even though I didn't chart it on my system, the charts that I've seen, that's parabolic now. And parabolic charts all end the same way.
Hey, and it's interesting. There is more cryptocurrency in value out out there than there are U.S. dollars. Did you see that?
I did see that. I saw that yesterday. I was chuckling, and I said, "Here we go." It's the same game, just a different name.
Yeah, well, if only Ponzi had a digital wallet, imagine how well he could have done.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Hey, so I'm coming up with a new thing, because I'm assuming that just like regular currencies get inflated, you're going to see cryptos get inflated. So I'm creating, instead of a digital wallet, I'm creating a digital wheelbarrow so that you'll be able to hold all your crypto when it becomes super inflated and, take it off and go buy a loaf of bread.
I think that's a pretty good idea.
So digital wheelbarrows for the masses, right?
The digital wheelbarrows sound like the next plan. Hey, listen, it's as good as Dogecoin.
Yeah. Well, Dodge, I haven't even looked at Dogecoin because it's just become the butt of the crypto joke. But if we look and see what the Dodge is trading for, and a bunch of it's being held in Robinhood, evidently, which is kind of an interesting thing, that Robinhood's become this crypto trading platform. They can't figure out how to trade stocks, but they're pretty good at cryptos, I guess, huh?
Well, you got to chuckle at some of this stuff sometimes. You have to have a sense of humor in this business. But the reality of it is we're seeing, more and more froth and ridiculous stuff occur. And that's just a very, very good sign of a top.
Always. And hey, if you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, Northern Florida, go fill up your tank if you can find a gas station that will actually have gas, which is questionable here, but it just shows how vulnerable everything really is.
It really does. What's going on right now with the gas supply, the cyber hack on a pipeline. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is something straight out of a movie. And, we're living it now real time. So I guess this is just a sign of the times that we're in. And it's very, very unfortunate. But, this can happen to the power grid, too. So this is just something that can continually occur as everything is now online.
Hey, remember Terminator 3, I think it was, where Skynet, takes over and everybody's trying to buy gas at the gas station and the networks won't accept anybody's credit cards. Remember that scene? It's kind of what it reminds me of.
Yes, it does. And these movies have a tendency to sometimes predict the future. It's kind of scary. But, this is really where we are now, where everything is connected online. And that's my main point for Bitcoin as well, because, if you can't get online, how can you ever, claim your Bitcoin? So, if the grid gets shut down or something like that happens, it really has effects everywhere. And we're just seeing it in Texas not that long ago with the deep freeze. We're seeing it now with this cyber hack on this pipeline. What's next?
Hey, well, when you want to find out what's next, you probably should go to South Park, because they have a habit of predicting a lot of things that come true. Like, I don't even want to go into it, but the whole Hollywood scandals, everything else. But otherwise, if you want to make some money in the markets, go over to inthemoneystocks.com, see how Nick has done it in the past and how he'll help you do it in the future. And you can check out the Twitter feeds at ITMS, at Nick Santiago01, at Kerry Lutz. Be sure to send me your emails to my address, kl@kerrylutz.com, and we'll share them with Nick. And Nick, that's it for today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good, Kerry. Thank you.
And so concludes another episode of Daily Market Wisdom with Master Trader Nick Santiago. Be sure to go to his website, inthemoneystocks.com. Don't forget the Twitter feeds at ITMS and at Nick Santiago01.